What do you want to achieve this season?
Reach the kind of like the final site in Alabama. If you reach that, everything can happen. I want to take care of those opportunities because I don't want to take things for granted. I am always aiming to improve my soccer in one way or another. I started at birth, basically. My father played professionally, so at 10, I would move on to play for an academy for Bodø Glimt. You hear like, oh, you're not going to be as good as your dad, or you're not going to be as good as your brother, and it shouldn't matter at all, but when you're young and like you want to be good, it frustrates you a lot. More than once, felt like I wanted to quit.
What does working hard mentally look like?
Welcome to the world of sports. My name is Lewis Helm, and I'm a student and soccer player at Grandview University. Each week, I sit down with athletes and professionals from across the sports industry to talk about their careers and their paths into sports, but also their beliefs, values, and perspectives. My guest in the inaugural episode is Herman Furumo. Herman is my teammate at Grandview University and a national champion, though we recorded this chat before winning the national tournament. In this episode, we talk about his soccer journey, from growing up with a father who played professionally to joining the Academy of Champions League club Bodø Glimt and playing senior level football at just 15 years old. Herman opens up about the doubts and struggles that came with early expectations and how his path eventually led him to playing college soccer in the US. Off the pitch, we also dive into his love for traveling, the books that have had a meaningful impact on him, and how those experiences help him mentally, both on and off the field. Now, here's my conversation with Herman Furumo.
So, the opening question, what I want to ask you is, what does soccer mean to you?
Wow.
You can take your time.
Yeah, I can talk for a long time about this. I don't know how much time you have.
Oh, we have all the time in the world.
No, soccer is, I'm going to say football time and time again.
Yeah.
As a European, you would understand that.
And we can stick to that too. It doesn't matter.
No, soccer is, I started at birth, basically. My father played professionally.
Interesting.
And my mom played as well, so I had no choice, if I'm being honest. My brother played, like everyone plays in my family. So that's something that started right away. I got into a team at 5 years old. It's been there consistently throughout my entire life. So that's, to the very basic answer, that's how it is for me. It's never been a choice, really, if I'm being honest.
And so I want to be talking about your journey in soccer in just a minute, but like on the more emotional level, how does it impact you kind of day to day?
That's a good question. I am always aiming to improve my soccer in one way or another. Of course, you have time off and stuff like that, but from early on, I was very serious about soccer in like talent-wise, training, maybe diet not as much, but like I was always very consistent in my love for the game, which was there early on. And I watch soccer, I play soccer as much as I can. So like it's very hard to explain, but it's always like a love for it. So even when I stop playing soccer one day, I'm probably going to be coaching. I'm going to do something because it's just such important part of my life that takes so much time. If you think about it yourself, all the time you spend for practice, traveling to games throughout your entire life. So it obviously is something very close to you from early on.
So you just spoke about how you kind of try to improve your football, your soccer, kind of like every day. What does that look like?
Well, to take an extreme example, I never try to like get myself in a position where I might be hurt so I can't play games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have some friends of mine who are not that serious and they get injured in stupid ways. Like if we just play like 6 people, I will always just like keep to myself, kind of like I'm not going to go in for a tackle because I want to be sharp so I can play the next game. I always think like this. I don't know if that's normal for like a soccer player, but that's how I do. And I would say daily, I kind of I try to work out every day in one way or another. If it's weights or I'm running or I practice myself, it doesn't matter. But I work out every day for the purpose of getting better. Because if I wanted to, I could probably lift weights every day and eat a lot and try to be as big as possible. But that doesn't give me anything soccer-wise.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean?
Did you ever have problems with that attitude in practice, maybe with coaches thinking that you don't take it as serious?
Maybe the other way around, because early on, so I'm from a very small town in Norway. It's like 3,000 people, but it's outside of Bodø, which is like a decent sized city, but that's where I grew up and my parents have lived there and everything. So the team I played for early on was a like dog shit team, terrible. So I was getting frustrated by coaches not taking it seriously or like players not taking it seriously. So I've had to work really hard to like kind of like set myself in to realize that we're going to lose every single game basically.
I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel that.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, you just mentioned already that you're from a little town in Norway or around Bodø.
Yeah.
I want to get into that. I want to talk about your journey in football.
All right, so I mentioned already that I started playing early on, and in Norway you start at 5. I don't know how it is in Germany, but at 5 years old you get into like an organized team. So that was the first team I played for was at 5 years old in this small town, and I just played with people in my class, and we were, as I mentioned, terrible. It was me and another player that could play, and everyone else was terrible. So I played for this team for probably, I'm going to say 5 years. I think it's 5. So at 10, I would move on to play for an academy for Bodø Glimt, which is like they're a very good team right now. But so I moved to their academy at 10. So that became like a complete different, like it's a complete opposite way of playing soccer. So that was a massive change early on, and we're probably going to get into that. So, yeah.
How so? How is it such a big change?
You have professional coaches at 10 years old. So it's like, even that is a crazy change, and they demand things from you. It's basically their job in your hands. Like you play, if you don't perform, they get sacked or like they get moved on or something else. So they demand a lot of professionality early on that I'm not used to and I was not ready for at all. So even that is a crazy change from being at a team that would be like, yeah, we lost the game by 5 this time. So it was like, it's better than the 12 goals we lost by the last time. So it's such a big change.
Did you struggle with that change?
Oh yeah, big time. And I had to get used to not being number one, which was very difficult. As a young guy, you think that you're the best player or you think that you are something special, but you're like at that an academy, you're gonna face number ones from every other team. So you have to really work hard early on. You're forced to work hard mentally early on, which a lot of people are not prepared for.
What does working hard mentally look like?
It's a good question. I don't have a specific answer. I would just say you need a good support group around you. Like my dad obviously knew what it meant, so I was lucky with that. But you have to, I don't know, like you just have to work hard and understand that it's not natural that you're going to be number one the entire way unless you're some insane talent. But even as a fairly talented player early on, you have to realize that someday you're not necessarily going to be number one, but you're going to be a very good player. And I struggle to kind of adapt to that.
And how did you move forward once you played for the academy?
So I played there until I was 15. And by the way, the academy was in Bodø, but I was still living in this town. So I would travel every day, taking the bus, taking the train early from school, getting late home.
How far was it?
Hour and a half, I would say.
One way?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And you can imagine that every day, and you're like 12, 13, like it's a crazy change. So at 15, I would get dropped from the academy. I mean, not drop. I got an offer to continue, but it would be like you don't have a role, basically.
Yeah.
So I would just drop out of the academy at 15 / getting cut and play for a senior team early on. So 15, I started playing for a senior team.
Damn, that's a big change again. Like 15, a senior team. I think everybody that plays soccer knows what difference it makes to play senior level football. So yeah, how was that for you at that age to play with the grown-ups?
So that was at 15. I hadn't really grown a lot in height, or like I was still a good player, but I had some, like, physically you're not capable of that level yet. So I would not play at all the first year. I didn't play a single game. I would struggle in practice, like the whole thing. So it took a while for me to kind of adapt into that senior intensity and physicality, but I matured as a person, and I matured as a player, and I grew as a player also, physically. Yeah.
Was that senior team back in your hometown, mate, again?
So it was not my hometown, but it was like 20 minutes by car. So it was basically the same town.
Okay. And what was the level there?
They are in the 4th division in Norway, so they're pretty good. They're like I don't know how to compare it. But it's a pretty solid senior team, and some players get paid. Like it's semi-professional. Yeah.
Why did you decide at 15 to go straight to the seniors and not maybe play like at the level below your academy?
So as I mentioned, I could continue a year with the academy, but that was like I have to travel the whole thing, and I'm not gonna play. So I'm like, nah, I'm not doing that. And then I had this senior team. So my dad was an assistant coach at this team. So he obviously knew the structure. He had played for this team and been like their top scorer early in his career. And then I had another senior team at the 6th division at my hometown. So there was like 2 levels below, and that was never an option because like I don't think I would have grown as a player at all. So it was kind of like one choice basically. Yeah.
And how long did you stay at that senior team?
Technically, I'm still there. I'm still registered in that team. So last year when I went home from America in the spring, or this year in the spring, I played 10 games for them. So I still play for that team, and they're still in the 4th division, but they're going up this year. So next season they're playing 3rd division.
And whenever you come home, they just take you in with open arms?
Yep. So I got home on a Friday, and I played a game on Saturday in this spring, and I was jet lagged out of my mind, and like it was not good.
Okay, so you're now playing in the US. You started last year, I think, right?
Yeah, 2024. Yeah.
How did that move come about?
I still don't know how, but I got contacted by like an agent who had worked with a lot of people, not friends of mine, but people that I knew that had gone over to the States to play. So it's not a super common thing, not at least in northern Norway where I'm from. There's not a lot of like, I've never heard of people from northern Norway going over to the States. So when he sent me a DM on Instagram, which was weird, this like agent, and I didn't even answer the first couple of days. And then my mom just said, just answer and check out what it is. And if it's like scam or whatever, just let it go. So after that, we just got into talking, and he had seen, it was because he had seen my stats that year, because I played as like, my team played 4-4-2, and I was like the false 9, and I scored a lot of goals that year. So he would just see that stats, and then he would contact me. So that's how it happened. So I still don't know how he keep track on a division in like northern Norway. I still don't know. So I haven't talked to him about it.
And once you had that opportunity, was it a thing of like, yeah, I instantly knew that I wanted to go?
It was, for me, it was a money thing as well, because obviously you need some form of scholarship in order for it to be lucrative for you to go. So I had a very good scholarship that first year. So for me, it became like, I have to do this. I'm not going to get an opportunity like this again. So it's like, this is my one chance to study in America and see what it's like. And if I don't like it, I can go after a semester or 1 year or whatever. You can always go home. So that was my like mentality. I was like, I have to do this. I have to try this. Yeah.
So you've been in the US now for
A year, yeah.
a year,
Year and a half.
a bit more.
Yeah.
How is it different here than it is in Norway?
I always think about this and how to put it into words. I'm sure you do as well. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but culturally, it's such a big difference from Europe in general, I would say. I've been a lot to England before, and I've been to Spain. So I've been to different European countries, but I feel like it's a European versus like an American thing of culture. I don't know how to explain it, but culturally, it's just like an entire different. You can maybe weigh in on that, but I don't know how to explain it, but it's just such a big switch from people to the long ass drive-throughs that you kind of like. You drive on the highway and you see like 5 chain restaurants on the right side. You never see that in Norway, at least, or Europe that I've seen.
What's the biggest change for you?
Early on, it was like, I don't know a single person here, and I don't. If I kind of like need something, I'm not gonna get it in a way. Like,
Yeah.
when I studied 1 year economics before I went here, and I would always just like, if I needed something, I could just drive home. It was like a 3-hour drive. So you have to figure things out yourself, regardless of what it is, because no one is there to help you. Like, and you don't know people, so you kind of have to get out of your way to know people and make things worth the time, basically. Yeah.
And on the soccer pitch, how was that switch for you?
I struggled very early on. So it's a short preseason in the fall, as you know, and you get basically 2 weeks of kind of like impressing your coach or try to get in the first 11. It's not easy when you have 30 players. That's also another thing that's way different. A squad in Norway is typically like 20 players, 21, and here it's like 30, at least 30. So you have to kind of like stick out as a player early on, and I couldn't do that at a D1. It was a pretty decent D1 school. So I would just be benched, and I would come in from the bench and play until I got injured, like September, I would say, early September. Yeah.
What school was that?
Presbyterian College in South Carolina. So I think I would say they are top 100 D1, so it's okay. But D1 is always, you're going to have, basically every D1 school is very good. They have a very solid base.
People always talk about how soccer is so much more physical in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you would say too?
Absolutely. I don't know why. I think it's college coaches that kind of like lay up to that. It doesn't necessarily have to be like that, but it just is. So at least in my like division back home, it's a lot of like technicality based. It's slower tempo, but people are way more technical. So you would have individual players that would probably easily play for a D1, but they would kind of like struggle with the intensity and all the running and all that's demanded. Yeah.
Do you think you adapted to that pretty quickly, or did it take your time?
At least at Grandview, I adapted like instantly, I think. But at PC, Presbyterian, not quickly enough. I would say that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, you now play for Grandview.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get here?
Also completely random. Like, I have no clue how it ended up being here. So I transferred after the season. I was injured, so it wasn't just the fact that I didn't play, because I played officially one game or officially 20 minutes, and I scored 2 goals for PC. So that was my stat. But I got injured like early September, so I didn't play the rest of the season. And I talked to the coach, and he would just say, yeah, just redshirt so you have another year of eligibility. So, but I transferred after that because I got injured. New players were coming in. I didn't feel like I would be capable of working myself back into the starting 11, if that makes sense.
Why?
I don't know. Some part of it is playing style. They played a lot of long balls, demanded a lot of physical players. I'm not like that at all. So I would say that was the main part of it as to why. So I transferred after the season. I put myself on the portal. My agent helped me and all that. And I talked to a lot of different schools like D2, NAIA, some D1s. And I talked to Matt, our assistant coach. I didn't even talk to David, our head coach, before I committed.
Okay.
So I didn't even know who the head coach was. I thought it was Matt. So I talked to Matt in the Christmas of 24. And I don't even know. It was like a good scholarship. It's like a decent sized town. So Presbyterian that I played for was like a town of 5,000 people. So it was the same as I came from back home. So if you don't play and you're injured like me, you have nothing to do but party, basically.
Yeah.
So I needed like a city. So that was a part of it. And I thought this was a school I could play for. Like, if I think cynically about it, I was like, I looked at their record. I saw this is not it's not a very good NAIA, but at least I'm probably going to play. That was like my main mentality. So, yeah.
And how were your first impressions in the spring when we started together?
Yeah, me and you and a couple others arrived in the spring. It was, I don't know about you, but I felt like it was kind of like an unprofessional setting. I don't know why, but like the fact that we had to travel like 25 minutes to train, like it was just a weird, I don't know. I had like mixed reaction, like mixed feelings about the whole thing, basically. Yeah.
How about the squad though? The people that were here, how did you integrate into that?
I would say pretty good, like early on. It was a good, a lot of them are not here now, but Paolo, who was here in the spring, and like Martin, Clement, the French guys, and Dylan, of course, who's still here. So there was a lot of people that were like very easy to like. You don't even have to try with like people like Dylan. He's crazy on his own, so it's easy to kind of like talk to and integrate to. So it was no problem. Yeah, I wouldn't say so.
You had a pretty, not even a pretty. You had a really, really good spring.
Yeah.
How did you think that spring went for you from your perspective?
It went really well. It was just easy to kind of play in that style. It wasn't really a particular style you just played, but playing like a right winger that's kind of inverted, like a free role basically, and like an 8. It's my position. Like that's where I've played my whole life. So that was very good, and yeah, I don't know. It was just, I didn't stress a lot about it. I just felt like everything went pretty well now that I was healthy and ready to play. Yeah.
We now went into the first season at Grandview. How did you think starting in the preseason and then going into the season that has started for you?
Preseason, you're obviously like, some of the players. Like I knew you would probably play, and Dylan, like Justin, those players would play. So I was very like curious about the new players that would come in. I realized that they probably needed to be a certain level if we were going to have a good year. And people like Nacho and Kevin, and they would obviously be very good players. So I was very curious early on, but we had a very good preseason, I think. We worked very, very hard. So, and now obviously we're in a very good position. So we have a very important 2 weeks, I would say, right now. So this is where we need to lock in. This is where we have to show that we can, in fact, win the whole thing.
Did you expect the team to be as good as it is right now?
Hell no. Not at all. I thought we were going to be better than what they did last year. But when they started talking about, because David, head coach, started talking about, yeah, I think I have a good feeling, he said, before the preseason. I said, yeah, I do too. But what are you thinking? Like top 8 or like top 4? Or what are you thinking? So I thought a good year for us would probably be top 8, making the conference tournament. That was like my thought. That was like, that's a good year for us. If we make top 8, I'm happy. I don't know about you, but that's what I felt, at least.
Exactly the same. We were talking a couple of times last semester, and I was like, I want to make postseason. I want to get to the conference tournament. That was like my mindset going in. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty good now. Yeah. Pretty good. But coming back to you personally, how did the season so far go for you?
Actually kind of mixed. Overall pretty good, but I've had games where I've played very well, but I haven't had the production that I should have. I should have 7-8 goals by now. I have 3, but I should have, I would say 8 by like a normal production standard. So I'm very disappointed about that I haven't scored. Like even the first official game against Briarcliff, I hit the inside of the post, I hit the crossbar, and that was like, like really? Is this how it's gonna be? And it's been like that for a couple games for me. So it's been kind of up and down. Even though I've played pretty well, I would say both as a 10 and a winger, I've played pretty good games overall, just consistently, but I haven't had the production. So that's kind of like my main problem this season. But so it's been very like up and down for me, but consistently playing good. So I'm not worried about that, but I'm worried about the fact I need to produce as a winger. So I should have more than what I have right now. Yeah.
Obviously, we're going into the final weeks of the season. You just talked about how important the next 2 weeks are going to be. What do you want to achieve this season?
Reach the kind of like the final site in Alabama, which is like, I guess it's the quarterfinals that start there. If we can reach that, that would be like a massive. And once you reach that, if you reach that, everything can happen. You can win the whole thing or you can lose the first game. Like that's open game once you get there. So if we get there, that would be crazy. Just absolutely crazy when you think about the expectations. So that would be like my main goal. Just get there and then we can talk, you know.
The last part in this is about very broadly your future in soccer. How do you see yourself in the next, after the season, basically?
I've thought about this for quite some time. I always think about where I'm going to be. And as you said, broadly, like next season, I have no clue. I want to stay here, but at the same time, if something crazy pops up as an alternative, I'm obviously going to look at that. But I want to stay here, like for sure. I like the school. I like the squad. I like the coaching. Like I like this place. So I would love to stay, but you'd never know. And like in a even more future sense, I've always thought about like how long I'm going to play, how long I'm going to... I think the ship has sailed in terms of being a professional soccer player, but like you never know. So, but right here and now, I would say I would want to stay in this school. And that would be like, if I can finish my degree here, that would be perfect. Because it is a good scholarship. It is a good group. It's a good place. So, yeah, number one goal would be to stay here, probably.
You have 2 years left after that in your undergrad.
Yeah.
Do you think you want to stay in the United States after that? So
I want to go to law school, regardless if it is US or Norway. I'm probably going to go law school. So if I can get, because you can get an academic scholarship here in the US. So if I can get a good scholarship, I would probably stay and do my law degree here. But if not, I'm going to go back and study in Norway. So, and it obviously depends on like your life situation and like, you know what I mean? It's so, but I want to go to law school. That's like the bottom line. So after the undergrad, or even if I take like a grad year here, I want to go to law school after. So that's going to be like my main focus, whether it is in Norway or US. So that's 50-50. I have no clue now.
Would you keep playing soccer if you'd stay here after school? Considering how fucked the US system is, if you're not playing in MLS?
That's a tough question. In Norway, for sure, I would play because the US system is fucked up, as you said. In Norway, it's very common that you study and you play for a club. Club teams are like the number one thing. Being a student athlete doesn't exist, in Norway at least. So I would probably play to some degree, but not as serious. It would be like more like a friend team or like something like that, you know.
I want to get into the relationship you had with your parents, because you said your father was playing professionally.
Yeah.
Your mother did too?
Not professionally, but if you kind of put the same standards as you put, so she played in the second like best tier in Norway, but that is not like paid for. But if you play on the second tier in Norway, you're professional. You know what I mean? So she was pretty decent player as well. But my father was a professional, yeah.
How did that impact you early on?
I can't remember a single time where there hasn't been soccer in any like shape. I've played a lot of sports in my life, don't get me wrong. I played in a very like broad different sports, but so outside of our house we have like a small pitch. So my dad got he got as a gift from people who created like a field, and they had extra turf. So he put turf on like in our garden, and he put like posts on the side, so he would cover it as like a small field. So we had a small field at home. So I remember just like 4 years old running around there with my brother and playing, and you know what I mean? So it's always been there in some way or another. Yeah, it's crazy.
And how did they impact your journey from your club team at home to the academy? How did they, I guess, support that?
They never put pressure on me in terms of like, you have to do this or that. If you want to go up academy, that's you. And they have been terrific in that, driving me if I needed that. They've always been there in one way or another, if it's sport or life or whatever it is. So I could not have been here if it wasn't for them. Like, that's the bottom line. And it's very important, I think, that they early on said, like, listen, you don't have to do this for us. Even though you kind of feel like there's a pressure, we don't care at all. Like, it's up to you. So they've been very fair on that way, and they did the same thing with my brother. So no, they've been phenomenal on that.
That sounds like a very healthy
Yeah.
relationship. All right, I have a kind of a guess for that question, but I want to ask it regardless. Who had the biggest influence of your journey in soccer?
Something like very basic, but I would say my brother, because he was very good. He was a very good player early on. So I would look at his games. He's 5 years older than me. So I would see them play, and I would be like very inspired, because they were very good. So their kind of like year was a very good squad. My year was terrible. It was me and another guy that was good, but his kind of team was very good, and they competed like regional championships and stuff like that. So I would look at him and be like, wow, you know? And he was an offensive player as well, so that inspired me like in the first couple of years to be better. Yeah.
And in the later couple of years?
So I'm a big Chelsea fan. So I watched Eden Hazard. So he's the...
More like a role model then.
Yeah, kind of, yeah, in a way.
Yeah. Coming back to your time in the academy, I always find that interesting to talk about, because I never played there, but like I had some experiences with all that stuff, and I wanted to get into your overall experience there, like the positive, but also the maybe negative sides of that.
So the positive things is that you will experience a lot of cool things. Like, you're gonna compete in tournaments against like high level teams. So I played at 13, I think. I played at we played at a tournament in Bergen in Norway where we would play against Fulham, Tottenham, Frankfurt, like a bunch of like top academy teams in Europe, and that's like a very cool experience when you're like 12, 13. That's like the best thing you can achieve basically. So you achieve a lot of cool shit basically when you're in academy. But the negative part is that you're just, as I mentioned, you're not going to be number one. You are, or in my case, I played as a left back and a center back because that's where they needed players. So in an academy team, you basically have 2 or 3 players that they kind of center the team around, and everyone else is there to just make the team good enough so they can shine. That's how it is practically in a like a big academy. So that's kind of like the downside. You're not going to be prioritized in a way. So and you're going to be frustrated. Like you're going to have a lot of down periods where you're not going to play. You have to be very patient early on to kind of like deal with it, in the long run.
Did you ever have issues with pressure or expectations, maybe that even you just put on yourself?
Yeah, I definitely put on myself, as because of my dad. I would say 100%. The name in a small town, I don't know, you're from Munich, so you probably don't know this, but in a small town, you know everyone. Like the place where I live, like 3,000, 4,000, you know everyone, quote unquote. So you kind of get some, I would not say like negative things, but you hear like, oh, you're not going to be as good as your dad, or you're not going to be as good as your brother. And it shouldn't matter at all. But when you're young and like you want to be good, it frustrates you a lot to hear that you're not going to be good. But once I reached a certain age, I didn't care anymore, but I put a lot of pressure on me unnecessarily because I wanted to go like the route my dad did. So I would just put a shit ton of pressure on myself for no reason whatsoever. And he didn't do it. So it was all on me. Yeah.
How did that look like, that pressure?
I would put like pressure on myself to score. I would need to score X amount of goals in a season or in a game. And if I didn't do that, that was it for me. Like if I didn't do that, I was in a down period for a long time that I would just do to myself for no reason, really. I don't know if that makes sense, but I would just put unrealistic goals for myself. So if I didn't achieve that, I would just be like, yeah, I'm not going to make it, or I'm not going to be good enough.
The way you're talking about it now seems like there has been a point in time where that shifted.
Yeah.
When was that?
I would say like 15, 16, started playing for the senior team. I was like, I'm not the same type of player as my dad. That's the first thing. I'm not going to score as many goals as him because he's a striker and I'm a midfielder. That's number one. So it's like, at that time, I matured a lot as a person and as a player. So I kind of realized that this is just very unrealistic for me to put that on myself for no reason.
You left the academy at 15 years old.
Yeah.
How was that?
You feel like it's a defeat in a way. Like you're not going to be pro. Like obviously you don't have to go that route to be a professional, but you feel that at the time where all you think about is like you're going to be a footballer. That's it. So, and I knew I had a lot of friends who would play in the academy as well, and they also think about it right like now as like, oh, it was such a defeat. It was like a big disappointment, and it felt like that was like now it's over in a way. But I've had friends who dropped out of the academy, played for a senior team, and became a professional football player, and there are right now. So I would say to other people who are in that situation, like it doesn't mean anything if you let it. That's basically what it is. If you work hard, you're gonna find a way, regardless. But that was for me at the time, it was such a big defeat. Like I felt like I had failed in a way. Yeah.
How did you get over it?
For some reason that year I was like 16. I just matured a lot as a person, and overall I just matured, And I don't know why exactly that year, but that's when I kind of realized a lot of things that were like, a lot of it was self-created and unrealistic. And I kind of looked at it in a way and just said, like, you can figure this out in other ways. It doesn't have to be this way. So it's a boring answer, but that's just basically how it was. I just figured things out at a certain point in my life where I'm like, I'm going to relieve some pressure off myself, basically.
You're saying you figured things out? What things?
I just figured out that you can achieve things not necessarily being in an academy. That's not the answer to everything. And I think if I stayed at the academy until I was 18, 19, I don't think I would have been half the player I was now, because I was playing left back, center back. I was not gonna, like, so if I look at it differently, I don't think I would have been the same player if I stayed in the academy. So I kind of like looked at it and said, there are other ways to achieve being a good player, if that makes sense.
This is kind of a weird question, but why do you think you didn't have a bigger role in the academy?
I think it's a mix of physical abilities that I was never like a fast player. I was never a strong player. I was always a very smart player and a good left foot. That was always like my main thing. And I think I didn't take the proper steps to be shown better as a player, and to be like, wow, this guy is really like, he needs to play. He needs to be a key player in our team. I never figured that out quickly enough to be someone they kind of like focused on and wanted to improve.
You obviously had like ups and downs during your career so far. You mentioned how football is kind of like a love for you since day one.
Yeah.
Was there ever a point where you fell out of love with it?
I have had more than once felt like I wanted to quit. COVID, I wanted to quit because I felt like time was getting away from me. We didn't have an open, I don't know how it was in Germany, but we didn't have official games for like 2 years. So I felt like valuable time was getting away from me in terms of like, at that time, I still wanted to be a professional. And I was, so that was kind of like like a big period where I thought, yeah, this may not be, I may not want to put all this time into it for what, basically. And another thing was, I started very stupidly after I quit the academy. I started partying a lot when I was like 15. In Norway, it's very common. You start very early on to party and drink alcohol and, you know what I mean, those different things. So I think that did not help me, not in a single way. And I think if I was more serious about that, party, diet, training, all that shit, like early on, I think I would have been a way better player today. And that was also a period, so getting back to that was also a period where I thought like partying is great. I don't want to put all this time into soccer. So those were like my two biggest periods where I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this like organized, if that makes sense. I don't want to put all this time into it. I just want to do it for fun.
And what made you keep playing?
I had a mini break in COVID where I was not training for a couple weeks, maybe a month or two, and I just realized like there's nothing else I want to do. Like there's all this time, like what am I gonna do? I can play other sports, I still do. You have the time for that, but it was just a big like space, like a hole in my life where I'm like, yeah, no, this can't be it. Like I have to do more. I'm like 18, 19, I have to try it. I have to try more. I have to try it more. Like this is not it. So, yeah.
Who are you as a person on the soccer field? Like, who and how are you?
I work hard, press very hard. I try to put... you've probably noticed, I'm not a big... I'm not a big presence verbally. Like, I don't say a lot on the pitch, but I kind of I bring people up in a way, and I'm always trying to be an impactful player in terms of goals or assists or producing not necessarily goals or assists, but just creating attacks and being an offensive threat. So that's how I would characterize myself on the field.
And that leads to what I came up with, because it became really apparent to myself, is if you are different as a person on the field than you are off the field.
So on the field, if I'm different on the field,
then you are off the field, character-wise.
It's very similar. I talked to my dad about this, and he wants me to be more egoistic on the field.
Yeah.
So it's actually pretty similar.
Okay.
If you think about it. It's pretty similar. And I talked to my dad about this, and he wants me to change how I am on the field a little bit. Not drastically, but a little bit, so that I kind of, instead of passing, I would take that shot myself, you know?
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I feel like, and that's probably different for everybody, but I really, when I think about it, I feel like once I step on the pitch, I'm like a different person.
Yeah?
I start shouting at people.
Like, oh, yeah.
I start being a little bit more aggressive, probably because I'm competitive. I feel like I'm such a different person on the field.
Yeah, I would probably be more, like, I'm going to be very, very mad for not a long time, but if we lose, that's going to impact my day a lot. So that's very different. I never get mad for a long time outside of the field. I never get mad for a lot of things. So it's like, that's probably, if it's one thing, that's probably like my one big thing that I'm very different about.
And who would you say are you outside of sports?
I would say I'm pretty determined on what I want to do. I want to have a career, if it's academic or athletic. I want to have some form of career where I can take care of people around me, like my family and perhaps my wife in the future. So I would say that that's my kind of like my main priority, is to take care of people around me. And from one thing to another, I love to travel. So that's one thing. I always want to check out new impulses and new places, and I've always been like that. That has never changed. So I've always been like that, and we've always traveled a lot as a family. So I kind of got that early on.
Do you think the ambition you have for your life kind of correlates with the ambition you had in soccer, or maybe the other way around?
So I don't think I'm a pretty curious person, and without that, I don't think I would have went to America. I was very curious on how it was going to be. I was very determined on this is like a one-shot thing. So I think, yeah, for sure, that has helped me. Like, that has been a key factor in my life where without those traits that I have, I wouldn't have been here. I wouldn't have taken that step to go to America, which is like it's a whole different world. And I wouldn't have done that if I weren't the guy that I am, basically.
Those traits you're speaking about, ambition, about being curious.
Yeah.
Which, at least in my opinion, is like very admirable and good traits. Is that something you think you just always had, or did that somehow get instilled into you?
Well, as I mentioned, the kind of like the curious part has been there all along, because my brother travels a lot. My family likes to travel. So that has kind of been always a thing. A lot of it, I feel like it's genetic. Both my parents went to college in Norway, like university in Norway. My brother did. I feel like a lot of these things are like overlapping from parents to children. So I'm happy about that for sure. But I think a lot of it is genetic and kind of like it's been there, but kind of evolved to be what I have today after my teenage years, basically.
What's your number one travel destination?
Right now, I probably want to go Serengeti.
Oh,
in
the
Africa.
national park.
Or I would love to go to Brazil, though. I've not been South America. So the US is the only country outside of Europe I've been. And Europe, I feel, is very similar in a lot of those countries. So, no, I wanted to travel a lot. If I could travel, if I had the money to travel, I would travel probably 300 days a year. Damn. If I had the money to do that.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I love traveling.
Why Brazil or Serengeti? Why those places?
I think natural beauty. So I think there are obviously other places where I would love to go but it has to be some form of natural beauty. So other places of the U.S. I'd love to go to Alaska, Hawaii, because of the nature. But that's probably the number one thing why.
So you're a big nature guy.
Yeah.
Last time we were on the bus, and I didn't know this before, but when we were speaking with Nate and we were both talking, I was very curious about your book decisions. So for context, we were in the bus.
Yeah.
You were reading from Frankl.
Yeah.
What's the name again?
Man's Search for Meaning.
Man's Search for Meaning from Viktor Frankl. And I was really curious because I've heard of the guy. I haven't read anything from the guy.
Yeah.
And those books are obviously very, I guess as the book says, very meaningful and talk about really heavy topics. And I really want to know where the interest for that comes from.
So books in general or just that topic?
No, the topic of books like this, like pretty much philosophical books. Yeah.
I would say, from what I remember when I was young, so my grandfather lives very close to us. He lives on the soccer field, basically. So when I had to practice when I was younger, I would go to his house and eat dinner. So I was there like every day, and he had a massive like bookshelf with like all these old books. And as I got older and started studying and stuff like that, I just grabbed a book and like tried to see different kinds of books. And I've always been very interested in history, politics, like very specific topics, geography, stuff like that. So I always looked for books regarding that. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of how I started to look for books that were, because I've always loved reading. So if I started to read, I wanted to read something that interests me, if that makes sense.
So you had that interest from pretty early on.
Yeah.
Coming now back to these specific books, I'm guessing there is more to you reading those books than just because you love reading.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like a book like that is very meaningful because you get to appreciate things way more. I feel like, at least. I don't think I'm in a position where I can complain about a lot of things in my life when you look at books like that, which is very like deep and thoughtful. So not necessarily just that book, but other books where you're forced to kind of think outside the books and outside the box, and you're forced to think about and appreciate things way more. For me, at least, that's what I get from them, at least.
Has it helped you in any sense with how you live your life?
Yeah, I try to experience things way more than what I do, what I've done traditionally in my life. So that has kind of changed for me, and especially the last like 2-3 years where I've traveled quite a bit. So I try to, like, instead of thinking like, yeah, is it an expensive trip? Or like, I want to do it so I can experience it, and the money will come back, I feel like. So I try to take care of those opportunities. The same when I came to America. I want to take care of those opportunities because I don't want to take things for granted in a way. Has
it helped you to grow your mindset?
Yeah, I think I'm not a person who feels like I'm in a position where I can complain about a lot of things. And reading books like the one we talked about is like you're kind of forced to realize that there's so many people out there who has it way worse than you do. So if you have a minor thing in your life, just just deal with it. That's kind of like my thing, is like I just deal with it, and like, yeah, it's not ideal, but I don't feel like it should ruin your day or it should affect you over a long period of time.
What has been the most meaningful book you read?
That's a good question. Probably this one.
Okay.
The one we talked with Frankel. I would say so.
Why?
Because it's such a bizarre event that he went through, or like I don't know how long he was there, but he's a couple years in a camp, basically. It's
concentration camp.
It's such a bizarre event and bizarre time, and he just dealt with it and moved on and became a psychiatrist, and he traveled the world and lived to be old, and like that's so inspiring that like if that doesn't break you, like nothing is gonna break you mentally. So it's very inspiring to read those books.
When you start reading those books, is it that you're like on the lookout to find those books, or is it more that they just fall into your lap and you have a good time reading them?
I think a mix of both. I have some friends who like reading as well, and they're like, yeah, I got this book, and if we have the similar interests, I would trust their word for it and read that book. Or my grandfather's shelf, I would just pick a book, and he is also like he likes the same topic. So I would say it's a mix of those two, probably. I would find something, and something would just be recommended to me, so like different ways.
And would you say you try to use those books to grow your mind, or to maybe even change your mind?
I think those books, I would recommend reading to everyone. Like it's not what you want to do, but you improve your vocabulary, I think, by reading a lot. I think you improve your understanding of text, and that can be applied to everything. I try to look for books where I think I can learn something, or I can get some new impulses on perspectives that I haven't thought about, or like, you know what I mean, like something like that. So yeah, definitely.
And is that in a emotional way in terms of these books, or is it everything you talked about, your interest in history, politics?
It could be emotionally, or it could be just intellectually if I want to learn something. So if I want to... So this book, like the Man's Search for Meaning, I think is a mix of both. We kind of learn about... It's a lot of emotional appeal to it. I think it has improved me mentally, at least, but a lot of the books I read is simply for intellectual like development. Yeah.
I have this one question here, which kind of ties everything together. And it is, what would you tell your younger self starting out in soccer, but also in life?
Don't party when you're 15. If you want to be an athlete, don't party. It's gonna stop your development. You said like early on, like when I started like academy.
Yeah, like looking back with everything you know now.
Wow, that's work hard, but understand that down periods will be a very central part of your career, whatever it is, academically, athletically. You're gonna have more down periods probably than periods where you feel like you're number one. So you have to deal with that. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. You're gonna have periods of your life where you're gonna be very disappointed with a performance, or you're gonna be disappointed about whatever it is socially. So you have to deal with the fact that you're gonna have moments where things are not going as you want it. Very simply, that's my number one thing that I didn't learn that early enough, I feel like. Yeah.
And how did you learn it?
I just think it came to me like as I matured. I think I developed a lot of mental ways to, I don't know how specifically, but as I matured, I just felt like that came to me naturally, if that makes sense. I don't know how, but it did.
Okay. So, about the partying, because you obviously started early, as I feel like all do in Europe, especially compared to how it is here.
Yeah.
when we're going out now, you're not partying that much anymore, if you're even.
I
Why?
haven't even partied at Grandview.
Did it have anything to do with what you just said about how you maybe wouldn't party as much looking back, or not really?
In terms of why I haven't gone here?
Yeah.
Not really, no.
Not really.
No, I wouldn't say
Okay.
so. It's just more like a conscious decision of like, I want to have a good first impression and kind of keep that. Like that was kind of like, yeah.
Which makes sense. I want to round it off. I feel like it is always useful to kind of have like some stuff to remind oneself about, to kind of keep your head in a good space with competing at a decent level and then everything else that is going on.
Mhm.
And I was curious if you have any sayings, any mantras in that sense that you kind of repeat to yourself whenever things maybe don't go your way, or that are just like you incorporated into your life that just keep you in a good space.
Very shortly, no. I don't have anything specific, but I could think of like, it's very cheesy, but it helped me a lot. And it's like, pain is temporary, but regret is forever. Have you heard that one?
I like the regret part.
Yeah. So I feel like you could, for that, it meant like America for me, the first couple of months was pretty like hard for a lot of different reasons. So, but I would 100% regret not going. And now I've come to a period of time where I'm very like satisfied where I am at. It's very cheesy, but it helps me quite a bit. Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time.
Of course, of course.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The World of Sports. I hope this conversation sparked your interest in sports and the people behind it. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to share it with a friend and leave me some feedback in the comments. Once again, thanks for joining me in The World of Sports.